Hello. This video is the first of a series of 3 videos that we will do that will help you understand how to use Google Forms to give a class assessment, a test or a quiz or a check for understanding. Now we know that Google Classroom doesn't really have a quiz generator built into it, at least not as of right now. And so this is a way that you can kind of work within the Google products to do that. Of course, there are other programs you could use like Socrative or Question Press that would allow you to create a little bit more robust of a quiz, but it is possible to do with Google Forms. So in this video we'll talk about creating that Google form as a quiz or a test. In the next video we'll talk about how you share that out with your students so that they can complete the quiz and what happens to their responses when they hit submit. Where do those go? How do you find them? And then in the final video, we will talk about a Google add-on called Flubaroo that you can use to auto-grade those student quizzes. So let's get started. We're here in Drive, and we're going to use our red New button. We're going to come down here and hover over the word More, and then we'll see Google Forms right here at the top. It has a new purple icon so that we can tell it apart from Sheets. Thank goodness. So I went to New, I went to More, and then Forms, and here is my new Google form ready to get started. First thing I always want to do is give it a title. We're going to call this Water Cycle Quiz. When I title it up here, it also puts the title here in my title field box. I can also add a description on this quiz if I want, maybe some instructions I want the students to have. But before I get started making questions, we're going to take a look at these form settings. These are very important to have your quiz function the way that you want it to. This one is checked by default, and it means that the students will have to sign in to their Google account in order to access this quiz. You probably do want that, especially since I'm going to recommend that you also check this box. This is going to collect their username, their school email address, along with their form responses. And that's going to be a surefire way that you can know that you have the right name associated with the right responses. So I recommend that you do that. If you don't want to do that for some reason, you will want to make sure you include a name field on your quiz so that you know whose answers are whose. You'd also want to make sure you make that a required question so that it can't end up getting left blank. So I'm going to recommend that you do collect their username. That's just a quick way to make sure that students are signed in, they're taking their own quiz, and they are their name is associated with it. This next option you probably don't need to check. If you had a particularly long assessment and you wanted to break it into multiple pages, then this might be a nice feature because it would show the students how much further they had to go. But in most cases, you're probably not going to have multiple pages and you won't need that box. The next one, you may want to restrict the students to only being allowed to take the quiz one time. If so, you'll want to check that, and it does tell you that it requires login. That's how it knows if they've already taken it. So you can't uncheck this and then check this one. But if you want the students to be able to take the quiz again, maybe you let them redo it, or you take the highest of their scores, or however you do your grading, then you may want to leave that unchecked. This last option is very popular when it comes to quizzes. You may want to shuffle the question order. That way, every time the quiz is loaded on a screen, the questions will appear in a different order. And that's kind of helpful if you're nervous about students glancing at the screen next to them and cheating. I will caution you on this. If you put your quiz into different sections, maybe you like to have like all the multiple choice together and, you know, a true false or something like that. You won't want to check this because it'll mix that all up. It doesn't like shuffle them within sections or within pages. It shuffles them across the entire survey or quiz or form we're using here. So just keep that in mind whether you're deciding whether or not you want to shuffle the question order. Okay, so we're ready to get started. Here's our first question ready to go. It just defaults it to multiple choice, but that's certainly not your only option. If I click this little checkbox here under question type, you can see all the different types of questions that you can choose from. I get a lot of questions about what's the difference between multiple choice, checkboxes, and choose from a list. Multiple choice, pretty self-explanatory. You're going to see all of your options and the students have to choose one. They can only choose one. With checkboxes, it's going to allow them to mark multiple correct responses. So if you have several different things that they need to check off, then you'll want that checkbox option. Choose from a list is going to give them a drop-down menu, and they can only select one thing from that drop-down. So hopefully that helps you understand the difference, and I'll demonstrate those here in just a moment as well. Text is for a simple short answer. Paragraph text would be for a longer answer. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to put in is a text question, and I'm going to ask for their class. You might want to consider putting a field like this in for their class period number, or if you have like A's and B's, you want different sections. If you're going to give this quiz to multiple groups of students, you might want to include a field like this so that when you get your results, they're all going to go into one spreadsheet, and you might want to be able to have a means of sorting that into those different groups. So I recommend that you put a question like that right here at the beginning. You might also want to make it a required question so that they can't submit the form without completing that. So then I'm just going to say done. There's my first question. Easy peasy. Okay, so now let's add a multiple choice. So I'm going to click this little down arrow, and I'm going to choose my question type. And I'm going to type in my question. Okay, and then I can come down here and start putting in my answer choices. It does give you a choice to add other. If you click that, it'll give an other box, and the student can type in an answer. If you ever want to delete anything, you just use a little X out to the side. And I want to show you here under advanced settings, we do have the choice on a multiple choice question to shuffle the option order so that these 4 response choices could come up in a different order every time the quiz is loaded. So that's a feature that I particularly like. Again, you got to think through it though. If you do something like all of the above, you're probably not going to want to shuffle the order because then that gets all messed up. And you can always make them required questions or not. That's your choice as well. Okay, so there I just added my first multiple choice question. If my next question is something very, very similar, maybe I just am changing my option choices or something like that, there is a quick duplicate button here that I can choose, and I can just change whatever I need to in the question then as I go. Okay, let me show you just a couple other options and things that you could do. If I click here under Add Item, I have some things besides question types that I can choose from. I can create different sections, so I could put in like a header and create a different section of my quiz. There's my page break if I want to make it into multiple pages. I can add images and videos to my quiz as well. So for this quiz, I'm going to add a diagram that I want the students to label. So I just click on Image, and then I can choose the image from my computer to upload. You can also do a Google search there within that. Let's see, there it is. So let me upload this diagram that I want to be part of my quiz. Okay, so I'm going to say up here under my image title, use this diagram to answer the questions that follow. And I can resize it if I want to. I can center it, things like that. When I'm ready, I say done. And now I'm going to add some text. Actually, let's do choose from a list. I'm going to say what letter in the diagram represents condensation. And then I can choose A, B, C, D, E, F. I think that's as far as that went. Yes. Okay. And I can, here again, I could shuffle the option order. I don't want to do that in this case because they're alphabet letters. Okay, so there it just gives me a little drop-down box and the student can choose the correct answer. So again, I am not choosing to shuffle the question order because I have this diagram that's going to have several questions associated with it. I don't want the diagram and the questions to get separated from one another. Okay, so I can just continue to add questions in that same manner until I have all my questions in my quiz. If I need to change the order of something, it is pretty simple to just grab this and drag it above or below. So I can do that. Now I will caution you that all of these questions are going into a spreadsheet. If you change the order of your questions on your form, it does not automatically change the order in the spreadsheet. So it kind of just depends at what point the spreadsheet is created. But if the spreadsheet's already been created for your responses, you might have to do a little moving around in your response sheet as well. Just I want to give you a heads up about that. Okay, down here at the bottom, here's our confirmation page. And it's just by default, it says your response has been recorded. You can change that. I like to put something like, please go to discovery.com while you wait for others to finish. If you make this an actual real URL, like HTTP, like this, it will turn it into a hyperlink. So the students will have a link that they can click on if you want to direct them somewhere when they are finished with their quiz. You have some options here. Show a link to submit another response. If you are only letting the students take it one time, you'll want to uncheck that. Actually, if you've said that up here, then it doesn't give you that option. You can show a link to the form results. You probably don't want to do that on a quiz. And you can allow them to edit their responses after they've submitted the quiz. So you can choose whether you want that to be an option for them or not. Okay, when you're all done with that, one other thing that you want to take a look at is how your form is looking. If I come up here and click on View Live Form, you'll see this is what it looks like right now. It's just pretty simple and generic. If you're fine with that, then you're good to go. I'm going to close that tab though. Right here is a button to change the theme. So I can change the theme. I can come over here and I can see all these nice themes that they have pre-designed that I can choose from. I'm going to choose this one with the sailing ships because it's a water cycle quiz, so that seems appropriate. Within each theme you can customize as well. So if you want to go in and change the header, you can do that, or you can change the colors or anything you want. Now if I click on View Live Form, you'll see that it's been dressed up a little bit. Okay, so those are all the basics of actually creating your form. In the next video tutorial, I'll show you how to send that form out to students and how to find the responses as they start coming in. So tune in for the next video.